All right. Welcome back to a movie review. Obviously, this one being about The Flash, which released June 16th, which is very interesting. As this is a week later, you may be saying, why did it take you a week to make a movie review? And that is for a very specific and a very good reason. Well, because everyone was already hating on it for the first week. So if I were to come out with this video, obviously you can see from the title, I like this movie. So if I were to put that in the sea of movies saying, "Oh, this is trash, complete mess, should have never been made. Bring back Zack Snyder," right? No one would believe me. No one would give me the time of day for me to make my arguments, right? So I waited a week, let the hate die down, and now we get to present it. So, anyways, The Flash, as you know, bombed in the box office for good and bad reasons. The bad one being obviously people were already hating on it. People said, "Oh, the three one point which is universally seen as the bad CGI, right? It's trash, you know." So when you hear that, when you think, "Oh, maybe I want to watch The Flash," you don't want to watch it anymore because people are saying, "Oh, it's really bad. It looks trash," right? And then there's the good reason why it flopped, right? Okay, there's no good reason why it flopped because movies flopping not the best thing, but is because of Ezra Miller, right? This dude is a real life villain, as people say when people were joking about the situations of him, doing bad things. They're like, "Oh man, this man should play the Reverse Flash now," right? And of course, they don't want to watch a movie that would basically give him more job opportunities, which is a bad thing considering what he's done. But of course, there are two arguments to this. One being, well, it's not just the Flash, right? It's not just Ezra Miller. There's a whole team behind Ezra Miller. There's a whole team at DC making a movie, and for you to not go watch the movie, not give them a chance because of one singular person is a messed up way of thinking, right? Which could or could not be right. And there's another one saying, well, they're the ones that worked with Ezra Miller. They knew what he did, right? It's not like it's some obscure thing that people try to cover up. Maybe they do try to cover it up, but the thing is, it was basically all over the internet. People were saying what he done. So to say that you don't know what he's done is just crazy, right? So you say, well, you stood by him, so you stand with him, you're gonna fall with him, right? Which are two valid reasons, I guess. Maybe one more than the other, but you get the point, right? If you don't want to watch a movie because of Ezra Miller, makes perfect sense, right? It's not like, oh, they're bad actors, so I'm not gonna watch, right? And the other ones, if you do want to watch it because you're like, oh, well, Ezra Miller is his own person, right? I'm not gonna put the blame on everyone. It's just Ezra Miller, right? Which is another valid point. If you do that, no one should judge you, right? But anyways, as you can tell from the title and what I said before, I do think that this is a very good superhero movie. Is it the best? We'll have to figure that out later. But the rating I would give this is a solid 8 out of 10. It's a really good emotional story about the Flash. If you don't know the Flash, his mom died. His dad got basically convicted for her murder. So obviously in all the stories, he goes back in time to save his mom, which therefore messes up the entire universe or something, right? Which, is the reboot of the DC EU or whatever, which brings back Michael Keaton's Batman and Supergirl, which is her own thing, right? All right, so let's get with the negatives first, right? Because there are I don't want to say they're negatives, but I'm going to talk about other people. Specifically, one person said about the movie, right? So this one YouTuber that I don't watch consistently, but I did watch for the Flash movie because I wanted a different take on the movie than when I watched it. Reaper, right? He made a movie, and he has two different takes. He says, "Oh, Batman and Supergirl," if you don't know the movie, didn't want to help the Barrys, right? Because going back in time, he in fact did not go back to the time where he left in the original timeline. He ended up going earlier, so now there's two of them, right? But Batman and Supergirl, both Barrys go up to them and try to recruit them to fight Zod, because Zod is somehow still in the universe. It's not like replaced, so I guess he's a absolute point, whatever, right? And he says, hey, we need help fighting General Zod or fighting Supergirl, right, for the case of Batman. And they say no, and then in like, I don't want to say a minute, but like a couple minutes, like a specific scene, right, happens, and then they come back saying, all right, I'm a join, right? And they say, oh, well, there's no point, right? There was really no reason why they joined, right? They just said, nah, I'm not going to join, and they joined, which if you were to watch the video and you didn't watch the movie, you would be like, Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. That sounds like a dumb movie. I'm not gonna watch it, right? They both have a reason to join, right? Although some people might say it's not a good reason, whatever, right? But Batman, he always wanted to be Batman. He was forcibly retired in this universe because Gotham became a safe haven, which is a good thing, right? Because no crime, no, I would assume no Joker, whatever, right? It's just safe. So Batman is no longer needed, so he retires. But of course, he always wanted to be Batman. But seeing Zod, he says, "Well, we're kind of screwed a little bit because it's just Batman. Like we all love Batman, but Batman against Zod doesn't really work out in favor of him." But Barry's all like, "Hey, man, you gotta do this, man. The world needs a Batman." Right? And since he already had it in the back of his head that he wants to become Batman again or, be Batman again, he comes back. He says, all right, you're right. The world needs its Batman. And he joins and they go find Supergirl. Which Supergirl denies it, obviously, on the basis of, well, you kind of kept me captive. Or not you guys, but humans kept me captive, in a red sun dome. So I wouldn't really want to be the first to help you guys, right? So she flies away and says, nah, you do it your own thing, right? Because 3 humans, the Barrys and Batman, not really want to, work with these people, even though they saved her, right? But she flies away and observes Zod from afar, right? And then she witnesses Zod absolutely decimating a military, platoon or whatever, where they try to protect, well, of course, they're trying to protect the planet, right? These humans trying to protect their planet get absolutely decimated by Zod. And of course, Zod being a Kryptonian, as Supergirl says, Kryptonians are a peaceful race. And Zod being a, war criminal wouldn't really fly too well with her, being like, that ain't my people now, so she's going to help humans. Which could or could not be a good reason, but to say that there was no reason, dumb. Absolutely dumb. And of course, the third one, which is the universal one, bad CGI. Which, the people who worked on the movie try to make an excuse or give a reason why it looked bad. And that's because, they're trying to put it in a perspective of Barry. The bad CGI, the perspective of Barry and the Speed Force. Does this make sense? Yes, it does make sense because if you actually watch the movie, you could easily tell that. But since you don't and you just watch a video talking about it, you think that the CGI is just trash. It's not. It's only trash. It doesn't even look that trash. It looks, you could tell what it's supposed to be. It's just a little weird, which I guess that's the point of bad CGI, right? But I'm going to tell you 3 instances of bad CGI, which is the most, this is the one that's usually on the internet the most, and that is, of course, the baby scene where Barry puts babies in microwaves. The second one being where Barry goes back in time, and the third one is when the multiverses start colliding with each other, which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, are 3 instances of Barry using the Speed Force. So them saying that the CGI looks bad because Barry using the Speed Force makes sense, because all 3 instances that people are talking about are all the times where Barry uses the Speed Force, being the baby scene where he slows down time to save all the babies. The second one being where he goes back in time, obviously using the Speed Force. You need to use the Speed Force to go back in time. And the third one is the multiverses colliding because the Barrys are using Speed Force, changing the timeline up and kind of permanently messing up the timeline, the entire multiverse, right? So it makes sense why it looks weird, because they're right. It's only during the Speed Force, because Zod, the female Zod, the other Kryptonians, Supergirl, obviously is a Kryptonian, Batman, his Batmobile, whatever, his Batplane, all look good. Barry using super speed looks good too. The only time it's bad is when the Speed Force is being used, like either excessively or it's like they're putting emphasis on the Speed Force. So you could still say, oh, well, it's still bad. I guess, right? You get the point, right? Like I get the complaints, but it just there's an actual reason. They weren't wrong when they said that they only use it during the Speed Force scenes, because they really did only use it in the Speed Force. One of the other things I like is the characters, right? Michael Keaton as Batman, I'm gonna say this right now, is the best part of the movie. It carried the movie for me. Although I didn't grow up with Michael Keaton's Batman, his theme, I always heard it. I always associated it with Batman. And when I heard it in the trailers in the theater, I was like, yep, I'm watching this movie. I don't care. I'm watching this movie because of Batman, which is really weird because I think Reaper also said the only reason why people are watching The Flash is because of Batman. They weren't wrong. I did go watch the movie because of Batman, but I came out liking the Flash's suits. Barry's, They did a really good job. Although there are certain scenes where it could be better, right? It could have been better, but it's too and far between to actually make a dent in the movie. The worst character, unfortunately, of the main cast is Supergirl, right? You know, when people say, "Oh, she's such a good character, I want to see more of her." To be honest, I don't want to see more of her. I mean, I want to see more of Sasha Calle, right? Most people do, but as Supergirl, no. I think she didn't sound too good. Not in terms of like actual audio, but she tried to put emotion, right? And it just didn't feel right for me. But whatever, maybe it felt right for them, and that's why they like her. But for me, I just didn't like it, right? Is she bad? No, actually, no, she's not bad. I mean, she's bad, but the other scenes, like the fight scenes, are really good. Zod is a menace because in this universe, it's kind of like if you guys watch What If, you know, Stephen Strange could not go back in time and save his girlfriend, because if so, the universe would collapse in on itself, right? So every time he went back in time, she would die anyways. If he were to stop her, go somewhere else, she would die. This is the exact same thing with Zod. They could not beat Zod no matter how many times they go back in time, which is why there's an Evil Flash. And if you don't know, Evil Flash is actually young Barry, because he was told, "Hey, you're a superhero. You could be a superhero, right? You're the Flash." Only for him to realize that his universe is doomed to die due to Zod. So he goes back in time, keeps getting stabbed with Kryptonian weapons or whatever. So he gets completely encased in metal and becomes, well, evil young Barry, which is also old, which is a good concept. I like that. And of course, Barry has to go back in time to let his mom die and let his dad go to jail, which he doesn't want. That's the whole reason why he went back in time. And he does it. But of course, well, he does it, right? And it's really emotional, man. Maybe you guys don't want to watch it in theaters, but if you guys already have a streaming platform where they're going to put it on, you should definitely give this movie a watch. It's a really good movie. It's a really heartfelt story. And he has to let his mom die. Why? Because if not, the universe is doomed to die anyways. So there was really no point in saving his mom, right? But he does one thing, is because his dad went to go get tomato soup, whatever, right? And because of that, the intruder came in, killed his mom, and he was blamed for it because he was basically the only one there, and there was a knife in her, so they associated that with him, right? But Barry moves the cans up, so he stares up, and the security camera catches him buying soup, which then changes the timeline again. His mom is dead, but his dad is out of jail, which, of course, makes a cameo of Batman, but not Ben Affleck's Batman, George Clooney's Batman, which is actually the one that I grew up with. Not really, but I did watch the Batman and Robin movies, so I did technically grow up with them, right? But speaking of Ben Affleck, he was really good in this movie for the little time he had in the movie, right? The chase scene in the beginning of the movie is really good. So when I say this movie is overhated, it really is, right? They're basically nitpicks, but blown out of proportion, right? Blown out of proportion, right? It was basically me in my Spider-Verse review saying because those specific scenes look ugly, that I hate the whole movie and the whole movie's ugly, right? Because that'd be dumb. And actually, what reminded me of the Flash of CGI is those specific scenes in Spider-Verse, which, whatever, right? But that's why I didn't say Spider-Verse is an ugly movie, because of certain scenes, right? And it's also really overrated, actually, speaking of that, because people were coming out like, James Gunn and other people were saying this is the best superhero movie ever or this year, and it's really good. It's going to save the DC, which unfortunately probably won't. Was it a really good movie? Yes, I'll say it's a really good movie, right? It's overrated. It's overhyped, right? I mean, it has been a week, so it's not really anymore, but people are saying this is the next big, the best thing to come out this year. They're lying. They're lying. It's a really good movie, but there are better movies that came out in 2023, which is no shame to the Flash, because really good movies came out, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Megan, really, Spider-Verse, Fast X for Fast and Furious fans, right? For Fast and Furious fans, right? Big George Foreman, Shazam sometimes. Not as good. So anyways, besides that, that's it. That's the end of the review. If you enjoyed this video and you agree with me, hey, hope you subscribe, right? But if you don't and you still think this is a bad movie. That is your opinion, right? But anyways, hope you enjoyed this. And the next video will, of course, be the ranking of all the 2023 movies I have seen so far, besides Transformers, Elementals, and Little Mermaid. Those are the only, I think, big movies that came out, or at least people are talking about, that I did not watch. So they'll probably appear in the second half of the movie reviews, but this will be current 2023. I hope you enjoy this one, and I'll catch you in the next one.